everyone to the Academy of Animated Arts Community Critique and Chill. This is a community-run hangout where we are giving each other feedback, looking at work, asking questions, and then just hanging out afterwards. So we really want to, if you feel comfortable, feel free to give feedback and also submit things to get feedback. That's how we all grow together. So yeah, so we'll go ahead and start off. The first one we were going to talk about, I think, is this question that came up from Kat. So she was receiving feedback on this piece. And she had a couple different points, but the one that Diane and I wanted to focus on was directionality in this scene. So she wanted to know when she was getting feedback that people weren't understanding the directionality of the lights in the scene, what exactly that meant. So I figured this is a good conversation as well that we can all have and what we think it means. I can tell you that this is the image that the person who gave the feedback sent to kind of explain directionality. And so before I go into it, I was wondering if anyone wanted to start off and chat about it.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say as far as directionality, are we talking in the sense of art direction? Because
more lighting direction. So
yeah, I think
the way the light, the actual lights and where they're coming from based on what they're hitting or what they're doing in the scene. So that sort of directionality.
Yeah, because I was thinking on the how a director directs kind of thing. I was thinking in that regard, not the actual
the very literal sense of it.
Rays. Yeah, the science of it, where the rays are pointing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can read the feedback that she got and that she had trouble understanding. If
That'd
you guys,
be great.
Yeah, they said, scene is bathed in red, hard to see any strong directionality in the lights or their motivating sources. Emissive light materials are a constant value of white or red. That was I think the main part. And then no diffuse lighting in the environment. Seems that most of the environment is made of metal. In that case, metals exhibit only specular properties and not diffuse. So yeah, there was some other talk about materials as well, but we'll first focus on the directions of the lights.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's a fair critique if you look at the reference that they sent. So she has this nice tight glow around the light sources going on. Kat has a tight glow around the light sources to show that these are actual light sources and they're the brightest thing in the scene, which is correct. But in the reference that person sent, there's also a kind of haze that shows you that there's a light source to the left, even if it's not visible on the screen. To the right, the light also fades off, it goes into darkness. And then, so you can tell from things like that there's a light source, even if you can't see it. Whereas in Cats, even though you can see the light source at the top, besides that tight glow, you can't, the white light is hitting the brightest kind of on her and then also on the floor, whereas right around the light source is pretty dark, which you wouldn't expect if there was an actual light there. So things like that, I think, are the most noticeable to show directionality.
For sure.
Yeah, the other thing for hers is probably the white light and the red lights kind of competing in intensity. I feel like, yeah, that it's kind of tricky. I know she went through a lot of iterations. I don't really remember how she got here, the journey, but definitely the red sconces are throwing this kind of even red light all over, especially the floor, but all over the scene, which is kind of adding to that lack of directionality.
And I think the that texture point is a very fair one too, because that I think plays a lot into the directionality. Like it's so most of the materials are so flective that it really is mostly like specular roughness that we're seeing and not diffuse values. And I think there was some conversation about wanting to go for metal, and so that was the point. But if you look at like this reference, there are a whole bunch of different types of metal in here. Like this metal here has a very tight spec that you can see, here, along here. Some of it's a little bit softer. Like even this tells you that this is most likely a light source. And since this is closer, it's got this more tight spec, whereas as it gets further away from the source, it gets rougher and rougher, or yeah. And then like here as well, this is definitely a metal, but it like it's the diffuses or it's a much rougher spec, but then it has some tighter spec up here on the different materials. So there's just a lot of different variation in the metals and the balance of the diffuse and the spec. Whereas if we then kind of go back to this, everything is looking very like the same sort of roughness on the materials. And so that's one thing is like play with like tightening up all of the materials and then start to bring them back, and then start experimenting with variation and pull from reference and like even like let's look at some of the reference that Kat used. We'll go back to this one in a minute, but there's another one. I mean, even this one, there's some tighter spec here. This was one of the references Kat provided, and then there's some more like rough spec areas. But also this and this reference are both being pulled from games, it seems, which also just has a different feel. And,
Yeah, and
go ahead, Diana. Sorry.
yeah, and just about roughness, just within even the same material, if you look at some of the gameplay one actually that you were just on.
This is sorry. This one.
Yeah, I mean, even within the same material, there's like variation. It's not an even noise pattern or an even kind of variation. Like there's, if you look in I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Within those blocks, like each of those blocks looks different, even if it's obviously probably the same material, because it's like motivated wear and tear. So stuff like that, like
Yeah.
it's not like your roughness, like cats. It's not like her roughness looks just all the same, but it's just even. You would expect more differences, like on the edges, it would be more worn or stuff like that.
Yeah, maybe even play around with like throwing in some bump maps or some like a texture noise onto the spec bump or the spec roughness to break it up on one of the materials, because that's part of what's giving this like not a very uniform like specular highlight. It's being broken up by like tiny surface details, surface bumps. And then I was going to say something. Another thing is like something I was noticing in this one is the shadow looks like it's coming from something that's like coming down here and casting here, versus what to me feels like the brightest thing impacting her, which is this light here, especially the fact that like the red doesn't appear to be influencing her very much. And even just like if you want this white light kind of drawing attention to her, maybe play with shape, giving it a bit more shaping on her.
Yeah, on her, you definitely like the brightest point is the leg that's kind of forward, but if you look at her skin, you can't really see a key side and a fill side. just particularly on her skin on this frame, I do think
Mhm.
like you can't really tell where the main light source is. Because if you look at the skin, it could be like right in front of her, a little above. But we, but yeah, but there's like shadows on the clothes that kind of make it seem like it's somewhere in the to the right. So it's a little bit, I think, yeah, that also adds to that.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah, especially like you have on her screen right on that side of her face looks a little bit brighter, but then you have the shadow of like, well, it's all kind of going that way, but then you have like her arm having this weird like highlight on that as well, and then the leg kind of looks a bit weird, like bright on that leg. I can understand what they were trying to do with trying not to lose her in that all that red noise, but a good directional light, like just turning off all of this, like turning it all off, and just kind of looking at it one light at a time to see what exactly they're doing would help this person out.
Hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's a very good point. And like I'm even looking now, like there are these really cool pools that like coming from these two lights that maybe through like reducing the amount of other lights, just playing around with the values, like there's some cool pools of light that you could be playing with for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of want to do the thing where if she can upload the like group passes, like
Mm,
all the different lights, and then we
yeah.
can put it together however I want, then I would kind of like to do that.
Yeah.
But yeah, the other thing about the red lights is the red lights are really strong, but at the same time, they're not filling in all of the black points. So the other thing that was talked about was the black points in the scene. And yeah, like just around the white light in the back, it's pretty black. If you got rid of that haze there, it would be really black, which doesn't make sense if there's a light right there. Same with on the far right, the sconce on the far right.
Hmm.
There's a really strong light source there, but around it, it's really dark. I'm not saying you need to fill that in with the a same intensity light as with all the sconces, other sconces, but you do need like a little bit of information in these dark parts
Yeah.
to show, just instead of it going to really black like that, especially if you're going to have those light sources right there. So like yeah, I would try bringing down the overall values for these red lights, but then adding like an environment light. For this scene, a sky dome doesn't really work, but I had a couple lights, a couple huge lights that were coming in from above and below that ignored the ceiling and floor geometry. So it would just kind of throw a little bit of value on
Hmm.
everything, and then I kind of dialed it in comp, but something like that where you have a little bit of information everywhere. And for the two that I pointed out, like right around the light, I would expect some more information to be there. Like I would add a light for those parts. But yeah, but overall, the blacks do need to come up. And if you're still having trouble kind of seeing what that means and what it looks like, what clamped blacks look like, then you can also like tell us again
Hmm.
and then we can show you. I don't know if you are ready to show that, Forrest. We don't have to today.
Oh, I had it open. I'll try to do the same thing. There we go. Bam.
Yeah,
Um,
we can final, yeah.
I'll do the whole thing.
Oh yeah, and I meant in the viewer,
Oh, in the
like
viewer. Yeah,
not
yeah.
a
Okay, cool.
yeah. So you don't have to mess up your. So yeah, the in Nuke in particular, that's where the gamma and gain controls are. And for blacks, you usually want to kind of bring those up and make sure that there's no dark points. Because if you bring that value up, like above one and way up, there shouldn't be any very dark points. Like you can see the whole scene kind of rising evenly with overall, and you don't see any crushed blacks. Whereas if you do have crushed blacks, your image will there will be parts where that will stay black, even if you bring up the gain or gamma by a lot.
Yeah, so this is looking total garbage now. Yeah, no, that's a good point, and it's definitely it's smart to kind of get it like get it looking like get all the black values not clamped in like the renderer, and then bring it into Nuke and adjust it there further. But I think, yeah, Diana, you're very right that yeah, that it'd be nice to bring these up so that you can, Cat can have control in comp. And then if we go back to this one, I mean, this one maybe has a pure black value or close to it, but it's a paint effect. Whereas like most things are kind of illuminated and like aren't like pure dark, maybe like pure black. Maybe this is a bit, but yeah.
Yeah, make sure not to have blacks. Cool.
Sweet. I hope that was helpful, Kat, and also everybody else. Let's move on. Let's see who else is here who has stuff. Doris, I know that you've submitted, and so we don't need to do any feedback. But I did just want to say, like, I loved this.
Yeah.
I thought this was awesome. Like, it was cool to see your thought process and like see like the things that were kind of guiding your decisions into creating your final render. So definitely, I appreciate you sharing that. It was cool to look at that and then see where it ended up. So nice
Just
work.
love the color palettes.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Did you paint the color key?
Sorry?
Did you paint the color key?
Yeah. So
nice.
that's just really roughly painted over and just picked from the image I wanted to use as a reference to get an idea of where to put the colors that the original had and how I could reuse them for a render without absolutely breaking the render.
Yeah, did you paint like a matte painting for the far mountains in your final render? Or because yeah, you can really see the influence.
Yeah, well, painting is a bit an overstatement. I just put together some rotor shapes and Nuke with
Oh,
a
nice.
constant. But yeah, I made that because it's such a vital part of Klaus' look, I feel, having this huge, simple shapes in the background, that I just decided to omit the original mountain.
Yeah.
It's a cool choice, and it it's I didn't realize that until looking at this again, that that's kind of what you were doing, and that's really cool. I also think these thumbnails are great, like because like Mike always talks about like the squinting, like to be able to like, and like this is, it doesn't need to, like if it was any more detailed, it wouldn't really like, it wouldn't be as helpful as I think is like just getting the general like where do you want the viewer's eye to be, and I think this shows a great way of like shaping the light before you get into the software.
Yeah, and all of them I think would have looked pretty, which is, like it's a really good exercise to do multiple scenarios on one asset. And I don't know if you like, you already have 3 good setups if you ever wanted to do that. I think that'd be cool.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, personally, I did like the third the most, but when I was nearly done with the comp, I realized it is pretty much what the creator of the asset already did.
Ah.
I was like, oh, we had the same idea there.
Great minds think alike.
Yeah.
Well, excellent work. Did anyone else like have any takeaways from this? The references. I've just been doing a lot of talking, so I just wanted to make sure if anyone else had anything to say, they could say it.
No, I'm just gobsmacked.
Yeah.
Nice.
I have a question.
Thank you.
I think that the render is super appealing, but
Well,
I'm curious about the hue,
yeah, thank you for
the
sharing.
greenish tone.
Oh.
Because I think it's really appealing, but there's something that discomforts me a little bit about the greenish tone. Like I feel like it kind of gives me a little suspense because I don't really see green in nature. Like the I mean, you see blue,
Yeah.
you see pink, but green isn't really something that. So it kind of makes me feel a little ominous, a little dread. But it's so appealing also. So it's
Mhm.
kind of like tension.
Yeah.
I really understand what you mean because that is why I wanted to recreate this color scheme because it's stuck in my mind for being so weird, but also it just I remembered it from the first time seeing a scene in this color scheme and I was like, why is this no green? And why does it not look ugly? So I wanted
It's like
to
it's
try
like more
and
of an
make it a bit
unnatural, yeah, like an unnatural style. But it's not something we see every day, which kind of is the reason why it draws you in. But it's beautiful.
Because if you see the references,
Mhm.
the ones that have the green tone like have some like dramatic tension, right? The middle one, the top one, those lines pointing up feel a bit ominous, and like there's some broken boards there that feel kind of threatening, and then the one below that, that guy doesn't look like he's having a good time, and then the one below that, some kids are playing, but then this character there is,
Yeah.
kind of in suspense of something, and
Lighting.
then the bottom one is even more ominous than all the others.
Yep.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point because if I had more time, I would have loved to change the composition to make it more dramatic because I agree it fits the dramatic ones better.
I wonder, so I wonder if that frame is from the, like, early in the film. I wonder if it loses the green as the film progresses. I don't know if everyone saw it, but
Yeah.
Well, it's a tonal shift, especially as the story develops. That those kind of colors start to disappear, and you start seeing more of the natural blues and yellows and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
gotta rewatch.
For sure. But it definitely like it's there's something ominous, and I think that was a great point, and it's cool to hear that was your desired intent with
Yeah.
the scene. So it's cool that it worked. So well done. Alrighty, let's move on to the next thing. Is there anyone else here who had work submitted into the weapon feedback?
Thanks.
Cool. All right, then we'll just.
If anyone has like negative feedback as well, even if I can't put it in for my submission for the challenge, I would really appreciate it for maybe later if I put it online somewhere.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I know Mike will give you feedback and
Yeah.
at the end of the challenge, and then if you work on it, please submit it again, and then
Okay.
we can further iterate upon it like that. We'd be more than happy to do that, and you're welcome to post it now too. But you're gonna, Mike will give you sage wisdom to work on, and then we can come in and do some tiny changes. So
Cool, thanks.
of course. So next up was T, who submitted. So we'll see. I don't know if this will be uploaded in time for them to make changes, but they did in the channel ask for feedback. So we wanted to just do a quick little chat about this. Does anyone have feedback right away?
I'm not sure what color space it's meant to be. It feels.
Yeah, it feels flat.
It feels like it's in the wrong color space.
Yep.
It's pretty oversaturated as well. So
Yeah, I think the one big thing that probably everyone notices that it's kind of too bright overall, so much so that there's a lot of blown out parts
yeah,
Mhm.
and it's losing a lot of contrast. Except in the background, which I'm assuming is just kind of like a inserted color. But
Yeah.
yeah, maybe actually they are having color space issues.
Yeah, no, that's kind of what it,
not a lot of depth either.
yeah. So first thing is maybe look at the your color space settings and see like if this kind of flat image was what you were going for, or if it got lost in translation, which happened to me
Yeah.
late last year, and then it sent me down a wormhole of color space that I still have been parsing. So I guess welcome. It's, it'll it's
Yeah.
yeah, it's a brain teaser. But if this was your intent, then I would definitely work on bringing down the brights, playing with getting more contrast between the highlights and the shadows would be a good first place to start, because it definitely looks like there's clamping going on in your white values here.
Yeah, in the foreground on the roof on the right, and then on the
Mhm.
window, mountain in the back, left one especially. Yeah.
Art. Me making these circles. Yeah, cool. Okay, next up. Get out of here. Right, you get out of here too. So Raul wanted, this was a project that they've been working on for school, and they've been struggling with the bloom effects. Part of this project was um, focusing on bloom effects. So does anyone have any questions or thoughts right away? They're using Nuke for compositing, and they were struggling with how to get it.
Are they using CryptoMat first off?
Do not know,
Yeah.
but
But yeah, if they were, what would you say?
Yeah, no, if they were, sometimes what CryptoMat does when it comes, because we had this kind of issue when we were doing our student film for this past fall during lockdown, and that some of the glow effect when you use CryptoMat would block out the majority of it, and it would give like this very sharp edge what he's got going on along with that bloom, like that. It's like that sharp, but with the haze. That's just this weird thing that's going on. The way that we went about it is that for for this particular kind of thing, we used a alpha channel, or we went back and we had to like somewhat manually kind of edge up those masks and stuff for certain shots, which took a long time to do, but it came out pretty well. But yeah, for some of for this particular thing, like what's probably going on is just CryptoMat messing up your edges.
mhm. Anyone else have any thoughts? I say go to reference too. I think what Chris said was great, and definitely like maybe it will fix some of the issues you're having. But or in addition, I think just like looking at some reference of like of lights at night, like this, and the way lanterns glow. And even this, I feel like there should be like some glow here as well. And then bloom also like I know like when you're in the camera settings, you can affect bloom. So like you can maybe it's not just at the mask level, but at the like just like overall, like, at a certain intensity of brightness, you start to get a bloom effect. So maybe there are options in there as well.
So I would just
That
add,
sorry.
I'm a compositor, and I think that maybe I don't know exactly how they're trying to achieve that effect, but just the simple basic way that you can test if your maths, how you're adding stuff together, is working. It's like you could just key and get those are going to be highlights, and then apply something like an exponential glow mask by that key, and then that result, make sure you plus it, because that would be what would happen. The light would be added. So make sure that you're plussing it, and then check that result, because maybe there's some strange and wonderful ways in which you're getting the result you have right now. But the simple way, like you could test if your maths is right, is key the highlights, get an exponential glow, and plus that,
Mm.
and then see what those results give you.
Sweet. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great way. Awesome. All right. Well, then let's move on to the next. Um, Juan's already submitted, but I just wanted to, like, he put both of them in the feedback channel, and I wanted to show the before and after. So this is the before, and then this is the after. Before, after. I think it's looking incredible. I think like I gave some feedback, and some other people gave some feedback, like about like the lighting was feeling like sunset, but the sky wasn't, and so he adjusted it to give it more of like a sunset sky, which helps motivate this kind of lower sun angle. This is a great one for directionality. Like you can tell that the sun is setting, on the frame left side, and kind of hitting parts of this valley and the house.
I want to say, can I put this on my Christmas card this year?
You should ask him.
Yeah. Another
'Cause
thing.
my word,
Oh, go ahead, Chris. Sorry.
yeah, no, it's like my word. This is just absolutely stunning.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it.
I do have a question about that bush that's on like the screen right next to the house. Like, it is the only pink thing there. So I'm like,
Wait.
Which
is it just me, or like, because I see that bush that's right next to the window, and I'm looking at the snow
this one?
that's like right on the house and stuff, and I'm like, I know you can like kind of cheat with certain colors and stuff, but that being that right there, it just draws my eye immediately. But that's just nitpicking.
There's definitely more atmosphere kind of added to this foreground in the new version, which maybe is part of it, and I can see like what you're saying, like a little bit of pink, but maybe your monitor showing it is more pink.
Or maybe it's just brighter in comparison to the right of the house, which is shadow.
Yeah, like the way the way it's shaped.
Maybe it's also because the trees behind the house have a very greenish light in.
Yeah.
And the snow has a more pinkish one. It's just the contrast of them being close together and different.
Yeah.
Yeah, if there was one tree that I would want to talk about, it's that one in the back that's green. But like trees are green, I don't really know how I would pull it back.
Yeah, I more meant the snow on the tree.
No, yeah. I was
greenish.
Yeah, that makes sense.
I also want to point out a cool thing he did in comp. One of the feedback I gave him, and something I just noticed about this scene is it's tough to separate this mailbox from the tree behind it. And like for the longest time, like when I was looking at early renders that people were doing, I was like, what is that thing? And I like it took me forever to realize it was a mailbox. And so if you look at his before and after, he's probably in his compositor, he's separated it, he's brightened the mailbox a little bit, and then darkened the area behind it to kind of make and increase the saturation to make it pop. Which is cool because it definitely separates it.
A little dark patch behind it.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
And then he had some trees. And then here, some atmosphere.
You know what else he did?
I really like that the new atmosphere that he added takes away some contrast from the mountains in the back. Because the one on the left is having such stark contrast in the first, but in the second it's really the hut being in focus.
I totally agree. I think it definitely breaks it up and makes it feel like it's a big mountain. Whereas this like the shaping isn't very complicated on something that's really large. And so it just felt out of place. But by adding that bit of atmosphere and also he threw it a little bit further out of focus, it like makes it feel like it's more complex.
Yeah, and it looks like there's a cloud like between us and the mountain. So like more depth, just things between us and the far background adds depth.
Yep.
You know what else he did? He cut out that foreground rock.
Smart.
In the frame. I know.
We were talking about how like that a lot of people struggled with the rock to get it shaped, and not struggled, but like I feel like there was just a pattern of the rock always looking flat, and so I have a feeling that one of Mike and Jasmine's criteria is going to be about the shaping of the rock.
Maybe.
We'll see.
But yeah, as always, just so pretty.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Nice work. Alrighty. So yeah, Rio submitted and asked for feedback, and they posted their reference, which I think I accidentally did not grab. So I'll grab that real quick. Where is it?
In a whip. Yeah.
Yeah, so this was their inspiration behind this lighting. Yeah, so I think the goal is to like have like they're trying to use they're using the Milky Way as a way to like this purpley Milky Way light as influence on this, which is probably
like
more fantastic.
Using it to illuminate.
Yeah, and give color to the scene.
So like the color reference was from that image, right?
Mm-hmm.
But the lighting reference is this frozen.
Or the color.
What was the reference image?
I think this was just the reference, or I think this was their.
For the...
I'm sorry. What were you saying, Chris?
For Andrew, who was talking?
Oh
yeah, I was just.
Oh, it was Andrew. Sorry.
Is this the reference for the just the color palette? I mean the lighting for the one that was purple.
Some reference to the sky inlet according for that cabin. I think this is their main reference that they're using.
Yeah, I think, but excluding color, like they
excluding
have the other
color, yes.
Purple, but yeah, this is the lighting reference. I mean, the first thing I noticed, just because I'm looking at the reference too, but is there's like volume rays coming out of the windows, which is kind of interesting in their render. Like it's
It
not
is
just a haze.
intensified.
Yeah. It's not just a haze around the window, but it seems like there's rays coming out of it. What do you think?
Mhm. No, you're right.
Yeah. Yeah, because you can really see it on the top screen right window where you see like a
Yeah.
lot of the rays coming out.
Mhm.
Well, just on that screen right side, you can see a lot of the rays just kind of spilling out in that direction.
Yeah.
Yeah, it feels probably less like a warm glow, like this feeling like this this feels like a refuge for the character. They're like, oh, this is gonna be warm and it's gonna
Cozy.
solve all my problems. Whereas
Yeah.
this almost feels not
Ominous.
like like the first thing in my head, it doesn't exactly feel like this, but like is like a poltergeist or a haunted house or something like
Oh yeah, it
Yeah.
feels Halloweeny, which
yeah.
is like not a
Yeah.
Mhm.
Which,
but
yeah, it kind of reminds me of the farmhouse from Curse the Cowardly Dog.
Hmm.
It's
Nice reference.
good.
I'm wondering what was the goal with it. I don't think they posted if they wanted to recreate this being like a refuge or if something else should be the focus, because I keep looking at the Milky Way and the really strong light on the mountain in the background.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
I feel it's a bit competing maybe even with the
For
hub.
sure. Yeah, because in real life you would see the Milky Way only if all the lights in an area like it was basically pitch black. So like you really were just seeing the sky. So you're right that this feels imbalanced because both the ground is super illuminated and the sky is super illuminated.
Mhm.
So
Yeah, and kind of
sorry, go ahead,
sort of
Diana.
like realism aside, because you would never see this from Earth, but like I would expect the light source to always be brighter than its effect if we're looking at if we can see the light source in frame. So I do think the rims sort of on the house and the trees and then the mountains, especially on that screen left mountain, is too strong for the light that for the image that we have as the backplate. Like it could come down a little bit
Hmm. For sure.
right there. Yeah.
I do really love the way this rim light looks, like all along here. Like I think that's one of my favorite things about this the lighting on the scene is like all of that. I think is really nice. And so maybe it's if you were to take this further, experiment with what you can do to situate the source like more into the scene.
Mhm.
But also it can be fantastical too. It's totally fine. Um,
Oh yeah. I don't mind the idea,
mhm.
right? But just maybe like defocus the stars, like blur it a little bit and then adjust the value so that the sky is as bright as you would expect with all this influence in the scene.
Yeah. Anything else? Anybody else have feedback?
Yeah, and then just some matte issues in the foreground defocus.
Yeah, this one.
Yeah, and the other one too, the other
Yeah.
branch.
Oh yeah. Sweet. Well, nice work. Next up was Raul, who posted this was a piece that they've been working on in their free time. I think, yeah, what are everyone's
Lens
thoughts right
flare.
away? Yeah, lens flare, nice.
Who lives in a pineapple under a sea?
The trees there's something off. Like right in the center.
Mhm.
Where are you looking?
Like these trees?
Yeah. Sort of in the left side of the tree as well. Yeah, somewhere around there.
Mhm.
The-
This is another good one for directionality, where this shadow looks like it's coming from this, like one of the trees over here, but then this light's like, you know, coming from up here. You can kind of see these rays. Um, and then like parts of it that you think based on the rays, based on this rock, you think would be illuminated or like falling into shadow. And so it's tough to understand exactly where the light is. And then also like as far as the lens flare goes, we probably wouldn't have a lens flare like this.
There. It'd be more. Yeah.
And I mean the sun is like somewhere back here, so we wouldn't you would want the sun would have to be like much closer to like the edge of the lens or like actually in frame in order to kind of create these flares. And so it feels like, you know, God, why am I blanking on his name?
JJ.
Yeah, J.J. Abrams. You know, it feels like a flare in there with no
No context.
yeah, no context.
It's just like, oh, where's lens flare, lens flare, lens flare.
Yeah.
Put it in there.
So maybe
I mean, maybe if there was light coming off the mirror, but I mean, there's no directional light because it's in this shade. So,
Mhm.
you know.
Anyone else have thoughts?
I mean, it's pretty, and I think Julia said like work on the sand material, which I think was good feedback.
Mm. That's great. That's a great point.
Thinking about the sail of the boat, because I'm not sure if it's backlit or not. Because if it was backlit, I feel it wouldn't have this dark spots. But if it was not backlit, I'm not sure where the shadows are coming from. It looks maybe like a gobo, but maybe it's just really strong map on the transmission.
Yeah, I think it's
it would be more a more even color if it was backlit.
Also, especially considering how bright the actual tops of the trees are, because that's where this portion of the light is coming from. It's not even hitting like the top cross of that the sailboat. It's just it's more in the dark than what it feels like it should be.
Yeah, that's a good point. I don't think they have any like subsurface or something transmission on there that would wash it out from the light. It might just be a diffuse map.
Yeah.
And it's lit from the back, which would just show the color in the shadow. It's a good point.
Something doesn't smell right.
I think I like the shaping that's happening on this rock, and I like the shape that's happening on here, and maybe I'm gonna assume that there are like a couple different lights coming in at different directions, and so maybe just see what the scene looks like if you know like have this whatever light is casting this like have that be your main, and then throw in an HDRI, you know, to bring up the shadows and kind of see where that gets you, and then add bits of lights where necessary. But yeah, I say look, see if you can get like shaping like this, like onto the palm trees and the island.
They could go for a less prominent vignette so that the light direction can be a bit more suggested through the sky, which is not really necessary, but maybe to have the top left corner going brighter than the top right corner, so that the sky suggests where the sun is.
Mm. So you're saying like a gradient from left to right, with it being darker over here than over here.
Yeah, slightly maybe.
Mm.
I'm not sure. I mean, it can look like this at the beach, but it's not incorrect. I think it might just help settle the light direction.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a great point. Do my janky.
Is it like screen? I don't know.
You're probably right.
No, I'm not.
Feel free to chime in, any of the compositors.
Photoshop. I don't know.
I mean that,
But yeah,
but like even
it's
that,
okay.
yeah, you're right. Like that already is at least it's kind of drawing
Yeah.
your eye to this area. Like,
Yeah, because like looking at it, the one without that gradient, because you have this hot spot of the sun like hitting this palm tree, but then you have this other hot spot on the rocks, which is leading your eye to believe that that rock is on the same plane as that tree, but why is it behind the sand dune? So you bring that dark area in there, then it's like, okay, it's a little bit farther back now.
that's a great point. Yeah.
Sorry, I wish I could put in more, but like I said, I'm doing freelance work, so I'm working and watching you guys and
Oh, you're
working and watching
fine.
you guys.
No, that's a great point. Cool.
Cool.
Well, I hope that's enough to go off of, and definitely let us know if you have questions or want to submit again.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
or go ahead, Dana. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
So this is the last one that was submitted, and this one, like I think they've already got some notes to start working on, but I thought this was like just a good conversation that was happening, and I love seeing all the new paint overs that people are doing. So Juan Lopez did a paint over to explain to Anil what they were thinking they could do to for like their next pass, and they talked about how like right now this door and wall is the brightest part in
Really
the
bright
scene.
compared to the character. Yeah.
Exactly. So they did this paint over to kind of to show like what it could look like if they completely just darken the hall and then have like the light source really just be the moon or those street lamps.
This is a great one for illustrating competing light sources, especially on the characters. So before there was the moonlight, which you can see is obviously a really strong source from the shadow and its direction on the floor, like the shadow of her and then the shadow of the fence. But then there's also a strong light source lighting her frontally, so that if you look at her skin, there isn't a key side and a fill side, or there isn't directionality. We're back. It's a theme today. And the shadow is like the shadow is also washed out. It's almost like a bright yellow. And obviously the point about the foreground being really bright is good too. But if you just look at her in the paint over and in the render, in the paint over, you can see like a clear direction of where the key side is, and then the part that's the opposite of the key side falls into shadow, which is what creates shaping on her face and on her body and her skin. Like the fact that you have a light to dark fall off on her is really powerful.
Yeah, it just like if like in the thumbnail, like your eye is immediately kind of drawn to her, whereas if we thumbnail this, my eye is drawn to
Don't know where to go.
the rim, you know.
I think in going with your thought process of like that thumbnail, I think it's because of the color of the ground. But yeah, like my eye, when you go to that thumbnail, not in this one, but the other one, the paint over, like you do the thumbnail, and my eye is immediately drawn to that square and then to her, then up to her. So I think that's kind of effect you can go with if that's the initial thing that you're going with. And then you have the two hot spots of these lamps. So I mean, if you really wanted to bring her out, you could actually probably make like more of a spill onto her to give that like more popping out like a soft edge going on. maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I don't know. It's an idea.
No, for sure. Like, I mean, like, even this, like, you can kind of play with like using that as a tool to lead them by creating like a gradient, like Doris was suggesting in the other one. So now, just with that like tiny tweak, now there's just more of a your eye can be drawn there if the floor is distracting.
Yup.
But yeah, I think that was a really cool paint over. This was the example that Juan, like, or a reference that Juan sent as well. So I think yeah, you could of course go any way you'd like, but I think Juan's suggestion of using this as a dark frame to draw the viewer into your characters is a great one to try out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sweet. I think that was it. Did anyone have
So-
any questions before we ended? Or Doris, were you about to say something?
No.
Or was that?
No.
Sorry. The green bits jump all around, so I couldn't tell who was talking.
I'm sorry. I just had a sip of tea.
Oh, no worries. Any question?
Cool.
Any questions, anybody?
Anything you want to say?
Just that you guys are amazing in all the things that you do. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise, because what you do is make things amazing and make it look pretty, because it takes really good technical and artistic eye to be good at this particular field, as I'm starting to realize.
Yeah. Is that in the recording? Because that's something I want to say to like everyone in the server. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
Yeah.
You're all amazing.
I agree.
Nice. Yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah, I honestly didn't realize that there were like hangouts, because I think the last time I submitted it was still on Facebook, and it was just Mike doing the reviews every 2 weeks or something. I didn't realize there was actual community giving feedback to each other now, which I really appreciate. I think it's great to hear
Yeah.
other people's opinions and stuff.
Yeah, we started this. When did we start? It's been a couple
February,
months. Yeah.
and then
We started this.
we took a break. Just there were like things going on.
Yeah.
Neither of us were able to do it for a bit, but we've recommitted to doing it every other week. So
Oh, so it's relatively new.
Yeah.
yeah,
Definitely new. Definitely after we moved to Discord. And yeah, we just really want to keep doing this because yeah, it's also like I think it's an important skill to learn to give feedback too. And here we just really want everyone to be able to practice that without any pressure, because there really isn't any pressure. Like you can just come and kind of throw out your thoughts. And it's just more about how you learning how to say it, how to word them in a way that's like, respectful, but also easy for other people to understand. And that's just, it all just takes practice. So it's a good place to do that.
Mhm.
You
You're
wanna-
right. It's one of those skills that you don't really think that you need work on, but
Mhm.
you do.
I
Yeah.
just realized, Andrew, your avatar is one of the greatest things ever.
What is it?
You recognize
It
it.
is. It is from one of the best movies in Disney's library, and they don't give it enough credit.
What is it?
Thank you. Thank you.
I'm still sad they didn't make the sequel that they started.
I know, but to
Oh.
answer your question,
Yeah.
it's from Treasure Planet.
Oh.
It was the last movie that Disney used their deep canvas on, which I'm like, okay, great. It is very costly to do, but like, it is still an amazing movie, and it has such a heartfelt story that John, like, Long John's speech to Jim still gives me tears.
Oh,
You got the makings of greatness in you, boy. No,
Yeah.
it's an absolutely beautiful movie. It's definitely my favorite like overall animated film between 3D and 2D.
Wow.
And it's got 3D elements in there,
Mhm.
Which is also what makes it fun and special. But it's definitely it's not given enough credit.
Mhm.
Go watch it if you have Disney Plus.
Yeah.
It's amazing. I love it. It's also, childhood memories. Also,
Mhm.
that's why it's my
For
favorite.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely time for a rewatch. I'm definitely gonna watch it this weekend.
Yes, and if you want to increase your vocabulary, listen to Captain Amelia. She will give you a
Yes.
few words to use.
I rewatched it also, like, because had been a couple years, and I really paid attention to the dialogue, and it's absolutely incredible. Just the work that went into the lines and the voice actors, how they performed it was just absolutely amazing. So, but I could geek out about this all day.
And we all have those.
Sweet. Well, I'll end the recording, and we can just keep chatting about Treasure Planet or whatever else we want to chat about. But yeah, thank you everybody for coming and giving feedback and submitting. We're trying to do this every other week, so definitely keep submitting and keep coming to give feedback and hang out. But yeah, see you all next time.